Hello, I'm Dean Rod Vera, and today we will talk about affidavits, its definitions, and its effects. Let's begin. So, I bet once in your life, maybe twice, maybe four times, you've signed an affidavit and you don't know what it is. You don't know what it's for. Well, I'm here to explain what they are. Technically, affidavits are just statements of facts which you, as the signatory, or they call them the affiant, swears to or takes an oath or an affirmation that what you put in the affidavit is true to your belief and to your knowledge. Then that affidavit must be sworn to in front of a notary public or a person who is empowered or has the power to administer and receive oaths. The definition doesn't seem to be complicated, but I tell you, affidavits are as complicated as your earphones as you take them out of your pocket. There are various forms of affidavits in the Philippine setting. There are affidavit of laws, I think that's the most common. And there's one I really don't get is the affidavit of same name or affidavit of one and the same person. I think that's the craziest affidavit. You are testing and telling people that you are one and the same person. But nevertheless, certain government agencies, certain institutions require such affidavit. I'll explain why they need that affidavit. Before I explain the reasons for affidavit, let me break down what an affidavit is and its parts. If you've seen an affidavit, it's basically either a document that is either letter size or legal size, mostly legal, and it has several parts. The first part is the header, meaning it is states where it was executed or it was signed. Usually it tells us the city. Sometimes you might see the SS in part of that header, but that's basically tells you that the lawyer who made that is old school. You don't really need that anymore. So the header tells us where the affidavit usually is either notarized or where it was signed. The second part of the affidavit is the title. Again, there's the affidavit of laws, affidavit of same name, or just plain affidavit. It's best that the affidavit be given a proper title. Now, what's next? After the title is what they call the opening statement. In the opening statement, one puts his personal information, and it's usually read as I, state your name, of legal age, married or single, either the residence or office address, and say the most important words in the affidavit, hereby depose and state that. So that last phrase is telling whoever reads the affidavit is saying he's about to swear to or attest to what is placed in the body of the affidavit. What's in the body? Basically, the body are numbered paragraphs stating one fact at a time. You may add a secondary fact that is attached to the main fact, and they are numbered, so forth and so on. So, for example, in a simple affidavit, number one would be that I hold a driver's license. Number two, that the driver's license was issued so and so date. Number three, on this date, I placed my driver's license in my wallet. Then the next paragraph would say, then I lost my wallet. And then the fourth would say, I tried my best efforts to look for that wallet, and therefore my license is now lost. That's basically just a narrative of the facts that you're trying to state or trying to attest to. The last paragraph or the last section of the body would be what I call the kicker. Here, people usually state that why they are issuing that affidavit. I hereby state or I hereby create this affidavit, or this affidavit was created for the purpose of blank or for whatever legal purpose it may serve. After the kicker is the signature part, wherein it's usually started by saying, "In witness thereof, I here have set my hand and signature on this date and the location." And then the person's or the affiant's name and the signature above it. That's basically the body. What's after the body is almost a section of the affidavit which sounds like a bad word. It's called the jurat. In the jurat, it is a statement of the administrating officer or the notary public, if you will, saying that this person, the affiant, whoever made the affidavit or whoever stating the facts of the affidavit, has is or saying subscribed and sworn to before me, and then the affiant's identification details and where it was subscribed and sworn to. And after that are the notary public details. Usually, the notary public has their own stamp stating their name, their address, their bar number, their IBP number, and the notarial commission in the city where they reside or where their office is. Then on the left corner of the affidavit is numerical details. I'm sure you've seen it. Is the doc number, page number, book number, and series of whatever year it is. That's important because a notary public has to keep a record of all the documents that he has notarized. So the document would be, if it's document number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the page 34, page 35, notarial book. So it's technically, a notary public has to keep a notarial book of registry of all the documents. So he puts in the details of the document he notarized. Then, of course, is the series of 2021 or 2020. Now that I've explained what an affidavit is, what is an affidavit for? An affidavit is basically a sworn statement saying that whoever made the affidavit is swearing to or promising or stating actually that what is contained in the affidavit is true. Of course, no one is supposed to lie. No one actually lies on purpose. What an affidavit does is that whoever receives the affidavit has the assurance, the safety, the promise that whoever gives him or her that affidavit is telling the truth, and to the point that if he is found lying or what is found in the affidavit is not true, that person can be subject to the crime of perjury. What is perjury? Basically, perjury is lying under oath. Not the oath that you see in the trials, you swear to tell truth. Technically, you actually say the same oath in front of the notary public. You are swearing that person under punishment of perjury that what is contained in the affidavit is true. What is the crime of perjury? Well, in the Philippines, the crime of perjury is in Article 183 states false testimony in other cases and perjury in solemn affirmation. The penalty of arresto mayor in its maximum period to prison correctional in its minimum period shall be imposed upon any person who knowingly makes untruthful statements and not being included in the previous preceding articles, which is false testimony, shall testify under oath or make an affidavit upon any material matter before a competent person authorized to administer an oath in cases which the law so requires. So we have here that if you make untruthful statements in an affidavit, you can be charged with the crime of perjury. So, in effect, an affidavit is sort of a deterrence to lying. Here's the strange thing about affidavits and lying in that case. For example, you make an affidavit of loss. When you made that affidavit, let's say on March 5, 2021, you are stating as true that on March 5, you have lost that driver's license. When you go to the LTO or DMV, you're stating to that government agency that you could not find your driver's license and you have declared it as lost. Then you apply for a new driver's license. But what if you found your driver's license a month after you have your new driver's license? Have you lied? Technically, no, because on March 5, when you made the affidavit, you are stating it was lost on that day. So even if you found that what you have lost, you have not lied. There are many cases wherein people try to file perjury against a person who's making an affidavit. The difficult part of proving that perjury is that aside from presenting the affidavit and presenting that the statements contained therein are not true, the most difficult part of proving perjury is that the person or the affiant here had the willful and deliberate intent to lie. So it is the prosecution or the prosecutor to prove that the affiant or the one who made the affidavit intended to lie. That sounds evil, but because it is a crime in the revised penal code, the lack of intent is actually a defense and could absolve or make somebody innocent of the crime. Meaning, if the statement as stated in the affidavit was mistakenly told us truth or did not have knowledge that it was a lie, then that could be an excellent defense against perjury. For those law students or those taking up law subjects with regards to affidavits, you have to remember this one particular thing about affidavit. An affidavit, as we previously stated, is that it is a statement of facts that has been sworn to under oath or affirmation in front of a notary public. So, if we take the affidavit as face value, it should be taken as part of any testimony, meaning it can be presented in court saying, look, I have an affidavit. This person has stated certain facts under the penalty of perjury. So what is contained in the affidavit should be considered as true. But if it's presented in court, our jurisprudence or the Supreme Court has stated that if the person does not take the stand in supporting or affirming or authenticating that affidavit could be considered only as hearsay, meaning it has no true value as to what it contains. So technically, putting an affidavit in court still has to be authenticated or presented by the affiant, so might as well just not have an affidavit and have the person testify in court as a witness. So going back to the affidavit, you have to be very careful when you make that affidavit. You have to ask the person asking for such affidavit why it is needed. You have to tell that person, because you're telling me to make a document to which I will affirm or swear to under the fear of penalty of perjury. You should not take affidavits lightly. Why? Because when you make an affidavit and you swear to or have it notarized, you're telling the whole world effectively what is contained therein is the truth and that you are willing to suffer the crime of perjury if you are found to be lying. But sometimes you have no choice in filing such affidavit. Well, think about it. What you're just telling in the affidavit is the truth. You're just telling facts as you know them to be true. So technically, you should not fear if what you put there is true. Now, if what you put in the affidavit is not technically true or is untruthful, then that's when you have to worry. But I am sure none of you lies. Everybody tells the truth, especially lawyers. So the next time you're asked to make an affidavit, make sure that you read it before you sign it. Draft it yourself. Make a narrative or just put in paragraph form what you want to state. I'm sure there are resources out there that will help you design an affidavit or write it in the proper form. Also, notaries are commissioned by the court to where their office is located. And the rules of being a notary public are actually very strict. There are a lot of cases in the Supreme Court where notary publics have been suspended, or their legal practice has been suspended, or in fact, some have been disbarred because they didn't do their true duty as a notary public. So, if you have any questions about an affidavit or that you're about to make one and you're not sure, please consult a lawyer. It is worth the fees you have to pay him, because if you don't do the affidavit properly, you could go to jail. Hi, please do me a favor and smash that like button. It'll help me a lot and it will trigger the YouTube algorithm. Now, if you have not yet, please subscribe to my channel. If you don't, my dog will eat this exam booklet and that student has to repeat his final exam again.